Wireless security. Now, by default, wireless security is non-existent on access point and clients. The original 802.11 committee just didn't imagine that wireless hosts would one day outnumber the bounded media hosts. But that's truly where we are headed. And also, and unfortunately, just like with the IPv4 routed protocols, engineers and scientists didn't add security standards that are robust enough to work in a corporate environments. So we are left with proprietary solutions, add-ons to avoid to add us in our quest to create a secure wireless network. So just like the IPv4 networking or the networking when it started, it was not they have not think about the security part. They have not thought about the security part because that time they feel like it is not that it is not going to be that big. But nowadays we know that it is very big. Network is everywhere, and wireless network is also taking over the wired network. So at the time of this 802.11 committee, they didn't imagine about it, and they have not added any security feature into it. Now the security features which we have now with the wireless network, it is after the original standard. That means it is like an add-ons. So we have to add it, and if you don't, then you will be unsecure. Now first, open access. Now when we talk about open access, that means there is no password, there is no security, there is no encryption, there is no security here. Now open access means all Wi-Fi certified wireless. By default, all Wi-Fi certified wireless LAN products are shipped in open access mode with their security features turned off. That means they comes with the by default open access. While open access or no security may be appropriate and acceptable for public hotspots such as coffee shops, college campuses, and maybe airports. It's definitely not an option for an enterprise organization, and likely not even adequate for your private home network also. So security needs to be enabled on wireless devices during their installation in enterprise environments. It may come as quite a shock, but some companies actually don't enable any WLAN security features. Obviously, the companies that do this are exposing their network to tremendous risk. The reason that the products are shipped with open access is so that the person who knows absolutely nothing about computers can just buy an access point and plug it into their cable or DSL modem, and they are up and running. So by default, all the devices, all these wireless LAN devices, they comes with open access because everyone, it is for the ease of use. Like if somebody don't know anything about it, so they can just plug and start running. But we should enable the security feature, because if you don't enable it, anyone can use your wireless network and do the malicious things. And if the enterprise environment, if the company or in an organization, in an enterprise environment, if you don't enable the security features, then they are into the serious risk or serious trouble. They do this, some of the enterprise networks, some of the organization, they do use this without enabling the security features, because they just want to do the ease of access. They don't want to put a password to everyone, like just come and connect and use. They just want that, but this is what not good, and this is not recommended. It is very risky. Now we have wireless network access mode and security features. Now first, 802.11 access mode can be used in WLAN. First is ad hoc, and second is infrastructure mode. Now ad hoc mode means what? Ad hoc mode is based on the Independent Basic Service Set, IBSS. In IBSS, clients can set up connection directly to other clients without an intermediate AP. Now we don't need, in this kind of connection, we don't require the AP. This allows you to set up a peer-to-peer network connection, and is something used in SOHO. So The main problem with ad hoc mode is that it is difficult to secure, since each device you need to connect to will require authentication. So this problem in turn creates a scalability issue also. That's mean in ad hoc device you cannot connect more than two devices mostly. So ad hoc mode means where you connect two devices directly together without the need of AP, and they receive and send the data directly to each other. Just like nowadays we have multiple softwares in our mobile devices which uses the wireless network to transfer the data. What they do, they create the ad hoc network. Like we have uh, Zender, we have ShareIt. These softwares are we are available into the Android devices. Then we have some inbuilt sharing software with the specific company mobiles. Mi Share, Mi mobiles get the Mi Share, Samsung mobiles get the Share wireless share network. So they can create these ad hoc network where these devices are not required to connect to the AP. They can directly connect to each other and then send and receive the data. Now the next mode is infrastructure mode. In the infrastructure mode, designed to deal with security and scalability issues. Because the ad hoc mode we can't increase the network devices, scalability is not there. So in this mode, infrastructure mode, we have security and scalability also. In infrastructure mode, wireless clients can communicate with each other albeit via an AP. That means they will connect to the AP to connect to other devices. Now, two infrastructure mode implementations are in use. First, basic service set. In basic service set mode, clients connect to an AP which allows them to communicate with other clients or LAN based resources. The WLAN is identified by a single SSD. However, each AP requires a unique ID called a basic service set identifier, that is BSSID, which is the MAC address of the AP's wireless card. And this mode is commonly used for wireless clients that don't roam, such as PCs. Then the next is what extended service set, ESS. Now in this extended service set ESS mode, two or more BSS are interconnected to allow for large roaming distances. To make this as transparent as possible to the client, such as PDAs, laptops or mobile phones, a single SSD is used among all of the APs. Each AP, however, will have a unique BSS ID. So this is the example of infrastructure mode where you have this wireless router or wireless AP connected to these wireless devices here. So they share the data, these different wireless devices share the data with the help of this wireless AP. Now this wireless AP connect these wireless devices also to the wired network. So it connects these devices together also, and then it connects these devices to the wired network. So they can connect the wired network also, basically internet. So in infrastructure mode, what is BSS and ESS? Now first, BSS means what? We have a single AP. This is wireless access point where all the devices are connected. So all your devices will be connected to this single access point. Now what this access point has? It needs one SSID. Now what is SSID? SSID is security set identifier. The full form is this SSID is security set identifier. Now what is this security set identifier? It is actually the name of that wireless network. Now if you know, when you open your device, if you open your mobile device or your laptop and check the wireless network, what is available wireless networks we have, so you can see that all names it shows. It shows all the names which is available right now along in within the range of your device. It shows all those names of the wireless networks. That names is actually called SSID. So those names are actually called SSIDs. For example, this when I click on my wireless connection, I can see these names. You can see these names: Aman, OnePlus, Rex, Breed, Sohail. So these all names, these names of these networks are actually what? It is the SSID of that network. This is the SSID of that wireless AP. So this is the SSID. So SSID is the name of that wireless network. For example, any, like there is a network name called Aman. So this name is actually the SSID of this wireless network or is this wireless AP. Now the next thing is BSS ID. BSS ID is basically the basic service set identifier. Now this BSS ID is actually the MAC address of this wireless AP. This wireless AP has the wireless adapter, and that wireless adapter's AP, the MAC address of that wireless adapter, it is called BSS ID. Now when these devices wants to connect to this device, they do what? Remember, when you open your wireless network, you see all the available SSIDs around you. So when you want to connect some particular network, so you click on that SSID and then your device will send the request to that particular SSID. And then your device will connect to that SSID. That means your device will connect to that AP. Now you will get the network with that AP until till then you will remain in the range. So example, this is the range of that AP. So if you are in the range of that AP, then you will get the network and you will be connected. Now when you go outside of that range, then what happen? You will not be able to connect it to that same AP. Now here, this in this condition, what ESS comes? Because if suppose you want to spread the network that in the big area, like in organization enterprise network, so if you want to spread it into big area, then you can use ESS infrastructure mode. Now ESS mode, what happened there, and why we use the ESS mode? Because of this coverage range. Now what is ESS and how it works? Now example of ESS, for example, suppose it's a hotel room. It is a hotel building. Now this is the ground floor. Then this is the second floor, third floor, and so on. Now when we go to some hotels, they give us a wireless connection also. Nowadays wireless is available everywhere and it is the requirement for everyone. So suppose you go to some hotel, they provide the wireless network for you. Now when you enter the hotel, you will reach to the ground floor. Then what they do, you will check in and they will provide you the the SSID for the connection of the wireless network, and they will give you the password for the authentication. Now you will connect with this SSID. Now for example, the SSID is A. Now what? When you connect to this router, you will get the network when you will be in the range of this wireless network. Now suppose when you go to the second floor, now what? This wireless AP's range is not coming on the second floor. Then what to do? Then we set up one more AP there on the second floor. Now because they are different APs, now if we use the BSS environment, then what? This AP will have a different AP, different SSID. For example, B. Now different SSID, then the physical address, the MAC address will be always different. So BSS ID will also be different. Now because it is the different AP, so the password will also be different. So the password which you get for the ground floor, it will not work on the second floor. Then you have to recall the reception and then you say that I am not able to connect this network. Where is your wireless network? Because I am not finding A, the SSID A there in the second floor. So they will say that there is B. You will connect to B and this is the password. Now this same guy went to the second floor. Now what? this AP range is not going on to second floor again, second floor again. Now, because of that, we have set up the AP there also with the CSSID. Now again, SSID is different, password is different, BSSID is different. Now again, when the customer goes there, it says there is no APA, APB. There is no SSID A showing. There is no B is showing there. That means there is no wireless network on second floor. They again call to the recipient, say reception, and say we are not getting any wireless network here. So he will say, okay, there is a C SSID named C, and this is the password, and you connect them. Now you connect. Now we know the customer knows all these password. Now what happened when it goes back to the second to first floor? Then again it will disconnect from here, and then our device has to reconnect to this AP automatically. Now if suppose when it is going from second to first floor, it was downloading something or it was in the middle of a meeting, important meeting, then suddenly it will disconnect from this network and connect to this network, and the connection is disturbed. Now he will say what? He will get very angry because what? He's lost the connection, he lost the meeting, or maybe he lost the data. Now for these kind of problem, we can't set BSS environment, BSS mode here, and for that we use ESS mode, where the users are roaming around these different APs or different areas. If the users are not roaming around, then we can use the BSS mode. But if the users are roaming around, then we have to use the ESS mode. Now, what is ESS and how it works? So in ESS mode, we configure different APs on different floors, because the range will not go to from ground floor to first floor to second floor. So we configure different APs. But what we do here, we use a same SSID for all these different APs. That means if the SSID is A here, so SSID name, same SSID will be used for all these APs we set up. Now SSID will be same, but BSSID will always be different because it's a physical address. Now BSSIDs are different. Now what about the authentication? So for authentication, we will use the same authentication, we will use the same password. Now what it do here, it actually use the centralized authentication here. Basically for ESS network, ESS mode, we have to configure a centralized authentication server for it. That is called Radius server, and this server is connected to all these APs. So we have to have the centralized authentication, otherwise it won't work. So when the customer comes, so it will get the SSID name A, and it will get the password and username and password. So when it connects this AP on the ground floor, so it will select that SSID, and then it will connect with the username and password. So when it gives the username and password, the authentication request goes to this server, and this server will authenticate that user to access this AP. Not only this AP, it will authenticate that user to access this and this, all these APs. So when the user on this ground floor, it will connect it to this AP. Then when it goes to the first floor, now user will not see the difference because the network will not disconnect. It actually disconnect and connect to this AP, but it happens very quickly. So it will not notice it. The user will not notice it because the authentication is already done here. So it does not have to authenticate itself again. Then it can move the other floor also without noticing the difference, because the authentication is decentralized and it is using the same SSID. So in this case, in this ESS mode, they don't feel the difference because they don't know that the SSIDs are same, and also the authentication is centralized. So user can roam around anywhere in these floors without noticing the difference. So this is the ESS mode in the infrastructure, in the infrastructure where the users or devices are moving or roaming around the different areas. Now when we configure the BSS or ESS mode, we have to think about the coverage areas. A WLAN coverage area includes a physical area in which the radio frequency signal can be sent and received. Uh, Send and receive two types of VLAN coverages are based on the two infrastructure mode implementations. So if we use the BSS, then the coverage area is called basic service area. This which is basic service area, a single area called a cell is used to provide coverage for the WLAN clients and AP. This area we call it when we configure the BSS environment, BSS mode. So the BSS, in the BSS mode, what is the coverage area? What is the range of that area? It is called BSA, basic service area. Now when we configure ESS mode, so the coverage area for that ESS mode, it is called extended service area. With extended service area, multiple cells are used to provide for additional coverage over larger distance or to overcome areas that have or signal interference or degradation. When using ESA, remember that each cell should use a different radio channels. So they must use a different radio channel so that they will not interfere with the other area or other signal. So channel must be different, but they have to because the area we have to overlap the other area. So the terms BSS and BSA and ESS and ESA can be confusing. So BSS and ESS refer to the building topology, whereas BSA and ESA refers to the actual signal coverage. So BSA means the coverage area of BSS network infrastructure mode. So when we configure the BSS network mode, so the area which this AP can cover, this area is called BSA, basic service area. So if you go out of that area, that means you will not be able to get the wireless network. You will not be able to connect this wireless AP and send and receive the data. Then ESA means the extended service area. That means in this ESS mode, when we configure this ESS mode, so in this ESS mode, the ESA is the total area of this ESS network. Total area, that means if you go for the single router, so it will have the BSS. That means this is the BSS of this single router. That means this is the total coverage area of this router. But the second router, it also has its own BSS. That third router is also having its own BSS. But because we are using them into the ESS environment on ESS mode, that means what? This total area which these three devices will cover is this total area will be called as ESA. That is extended service area. So we can say that each router has its own BSA, basic service area, but when we combine these different routers, different APs to configure these ESS mode, then total coverage area of all these different APs will be called as a extended service area. Then one more thing, these APs, when we configure these APs, their SSID will be same. They are having the centralized authentication, but the wireless channel which they use, we have to configure the different channel for each AP because their areas are overlapping. If you see, the areas are overlapping here. Now they have to overlap at least 20%. They have to overlap at least 20% so that when the user will roam from one AP to other AP coverage area, it will not notice the difference. So when the user goes from this ground floor to first floor, so it will easily disconnect from this AP and connect to the other AP when the coverage area will overlap at least 20%. And because it is going to overlap, we have to use a different channel for each APs. Now, securing these wireless networks. Now, wireless LANs require new protocols and standards to handle security for radio communication. As it stands today, wireless communication represents a significant security concern. You should be aware of a few wireless security standards when working with this wireless, including wired equivalent privacy, that is WEP, and Wi-Fi protected access, that is WPA. Now first, wired equivalent privacy, WEP. This wired equivalent privacy was the first attempt to keep wireless networks safe, and this WEP was designed to be easy to configure and implement. Originally, it was hoped that WEP would provide the same level of security to wireless network as was available to wired, but for a time it was the best and only option for securing wireless network. But in this WEP is an IEEE standard introduced in 1997, designed to secure 802.11 networks. With WEP enabled, each data packet transmitted over the wireless connection would be encrypted. Originally, the data packets was combined with the secret 40-bit number key as it passed through an encryption algorithm known as RSE4. The packet was scrambled and sent across the airways. Now, on the receiving end, the data packet passed through the RSE4 backward, and the host received the data as it was intended. Now, WEP originally uses 48-bit number key, but later it specified 128-bit encryption key, making WEP that much more robust. WEP is a protocol designed to provide security by encrypting data from the sending and receiving devices. In a short period of time, however, it was discovered that WEP encryption was not nearly as secure as hoped. Part of the problem was that when the 802.11 standards were being written, security was not the major concern it is today. So as a result, WEP security was easy to crack with freely available hacking tools. From this point, wireless communication was regarded as a potentially insecure transmission medium. So this WEP was the first one to provide the security when 802.11 standard comes, but it is having a very big vulnerability there, because it uses the same 48-bit key every time when it encrypts the packet with this RC4 algorithm. So actually we can crack this WEP password, WEP encryption, and we can get the authentication password within within suppose 10 seconds, 20 seconds. It is very easy to crack. So nowadays there are some free tools or free hacking available tools are there which can crack the password easily within 10 to 20 seconds. The problem is that it uses the same key every time when it sends the data. So if you capture enough keys, then you can do what? You can crack the password very easily. And then because of that, now we have this new standard for security and new protocol, a new technology for securing the wireless network, and that is called Wi-Fi protected access, that is WPA. Now in WPA we have two WPA implementations. We have WPA personal and we have WPA enterprise. Now although this WEP was increased the bit key bit like 42, 128, but still it was not secure. Then we have this wireless Wi-Fi protected access, WPA. Now in this we have personal and enterprise. Now after WPA we have the next one also, that is WPA2, and in WPA2 also we have personal and enterprise. So the security weaknesses associated with the WEP gave administrator a valid reason to be concerned about wireless security. So the need for the increased wireless security was important for wireless networking to reach its potential and to reassure those who had sensitive data that it was safe to use wireless communication. In responses, Wi-Fi protected access WPA was created. So WPA was designed to improve on the security weaknesses of WEP and to backward compatible with older devices that use the WEP standard. So WPA addressed two main security concerns: enhanced data encryption and authentication. Enhanced data encryption, that means the WPA uses a temporal key integrity protocol, that is TKIP, which scrambles the encryption key using a hashing algorithm. Then the key are used an integrity check to verify that they have not been modified or tampered with during transit. So for encrypting the data, it uses a key, and that scrambles the encryption key. This TKIP scrambles that key, encryption key, with the hashing algorithm. And then the key are used, so integrity check, to verify they have not been modified also. So it is providing the more security for the data. Then for the authentication, it uses the extensible authentication protocol, EAP. The EAP, WEP regulates access to a wireless network based on a computer hardware specific MAC addresses, which is relatively simple to be sniffed and stolen. So WPA was regulating the access to wireless network based on the computer's hardware specific address, that is MAC address, which is relatively very easy to sniff and stolen. But WEP is built on a more secure packet public key encryption system to ensure that only authorized network users can access the network. Then we have WPA Enterprise. WPA Personal was made for the backward compatibility. Backward compatibility, that means it can be compatible with those devices which uses to connect the network in WEP environment. In WEP environment, what user have to, the device has to provide the user the password to connect the machine. The password which is configured on WEP WEP device, WLAN device. So when you configure the WEP, you configure a password. That password is used to connect that WEP network. Now the devices which uses this method, they can also connect when we configure the WPA. Then we have for that reason, for that backward compatibility reason, that WPA Personal was there. Now WPA Personal uses the same way as in WEP. We use the password to connect the password key to connect the network, but it uses a different way. It uses this TKIP for data encryption, and for authentication it uses different algorithm, and it does not use the same key for the data and authentication. So authentication is different and data is different. So if you even capture the enough data, you are not able to crack the password of WPA, not even of WPA Personal also. Now WPA Enterprise is for the enterprise type of network, like we can say ESS environment, ESS mode. 802.1x is an IEEE standard specified port based network access control, and this 802.1x was not specifically designed for wireless network. It is not designed for wireless network, rather it provides authenticated access for both wired and wireless networks. Port based network access control uses the physical characteristic of the switched local area network, that is LAN infrastructure, to authenticate devices attached to a LAN port and to prevent access to that port in cases where the authentication process failed. The 802.1x framework has three main components: supplicant, authenticator, and authentication server. So it is, and it is also, I have told you about this, it is like radius. 802.1x, IEEE 802.1x standard is for radius server. So in this environment we need the radius server, and that radius server will authenticate not only wireless devices. It is not made for only wireless devices. It is for all the LAN devices which is connected to the wired network or even a wireless network. So it gives the authentication to both. Now in this we have, in this mode, or in this 802.1x framework, we have three components: supplicant, the system or node requesting access and authenticating to a network resources. That is the normal devices, like we are having wireless AP, wireless mobile or wireless tablet. Then authenticator. This authenticator means a control mechanism that allows or denies traffic that wants to pass through a port. That is what our AP. Then authentication server. It's validate the credential of the supplicant that is trying to access the port or resources. So it is like this. So these devices, tablet or mobile devices, they are supplicant. They want to access the resources, they want to access the network, and they provide the credentials. They will give the credential, username and password, and these username passwords will be authenticated by the radius server, and this radius server is the authentication server. This radius server's job is to provide the authentication to the supplicant, providing the credential provided by the supplicant. Now based on the authentication, this authenticator's job is to control the traffic which is want to go through this network. Like it will allow or denies the traffic based on the authenticated by the authentication server. So if the authentication server validate the user, only then this authenticator, that means our AP, will allow that user to access the network on that port, or it will deny those APs, or it will deny those supplicant to access the network. And this is what we use in the ESS mode, where we have the centralized authentication. So radius server basically is to centralize, it is to provide the centralized authentication for different devices and different type of devices also. Not only the wireless devices, it also provides the authentication to wired devices also. Now configuring your wireless network. So how we can configure our wireless network? Now the LAN IP address of a router is also known as its internal IP address, and it is also the IP address that you connect to when you want to configure your router. It is only useful from inside your network and has no use from the internet side. So router have two IP addresses, an internal IP addresses and an external IP addresses. The external IP address is assigned to you by your internet service provider or ISP, and is generally not something that you can change. And the internal IP addresses is set to the default value at the factory, but can be changed if you want. Now the common internal IP addresses for routers are this: 192.168.0.1, 192.168.1.1, or even 10.0.0.1. Now if you see this, it is a class C and class A private addresses. So for internal network, it uses these by default from the factory setting, like it is from the vendor, hardware vendor, who configure these IP addresses on that, and they use these private IP addresses. So on a router, on a wireless AP, what we have? So in any AP, what if we want to configure it? So basically it has two ports: one to connect the device to the internet or WAN network, and you have that port named as a internet or WAN port. It will connect your device to the internet. Then you have these second ports, or you have some of these ports are LAN ports, so that you can connect the LAN devices. So you have 2 to 4 ports for the LAN network, and you can use the wire cable to connect the device here, or you can connect devices wirelessly. So you can connect these devices wirelessly to the internal network, or even you can connect through the wire also. It gives you the option to connect the wire also. Now when you want to configure this device, so you will get the IP address from the ISP, that means the internet service provider which is giving you the internet. So the IP which is configured on this port of the internet port of the AP, it will be given by the ISP. So you will not change this. It is mostly it is fixed. So what type of network you are configuring here, it depends on the ISP, that what type of network this ISP is giving. It is giving you static IP, it is giving you dynamic IP, it is giving you different network types, whatever, it depends on the ISP that what you configured on this internet port. Then in this LAN port, like even from the wired network or wirelessly, so when you connect your devices through the LAN port, like from the internal network, so what the IP addresses you will get is the default IP. Like default IPs are configured by this configured by this hardware vendor. So they configured mostly these class C IP addresses, like the private IP addresses like 192.168.0.1 or 192.168.0.1.1 or even 10.0.0.1. So it gives these IP addresses to the AP, and when you connect these devices, so they will automatically get the IP address from the same range. Like if it is 192.168.0.1, that means it will get the range of 192.168.0.0 range. So all these IP addresses, all these devices will get the same range IP, and they will connect automatically because it will be open access. These routers comes with the open access. Mostly it comes with open access. So when you start the router, your devices, your wireless devices will automatically connect to this wireless network. But to make available this internet, to you have to connect these devices to this internet, you have to configure your AP first. Now for configuring the AP, you can configure it from the wireless device, or you can connect the wired device directly to the AP to configure. So you can configure this wireless device from connecting your computer through this wireless through this cable, or you can connect your device through the wireless network, and also you can configure the AP. Now AP does not have any monitor or keyboard option, so you have to configure it from the different PC. So you can access the router in your PC, this AP router in your PC, through the wire or through the wireless. But it is not recommended to configure this AP router devices through the wireless connection. You should configure it through the wired connection. Otherwise, what happens when you configure the wireless, because you are connected to the wireless network, you will be disconnected. So you have to connect the router through the wire so that you can configure easily. Now the IP address which is given to this internal network, we can change that. It is not fixed because it is configured default for ease of use by the hardware vendor, but we can change it. Now I will show you how we can configure this, and I will show you that in the virtual packet tracer. This is a Cisco packet tracer to do the networking practice. So here we have the wireless devices also. So if I go here, wireless devices, so these are the wireless devices we have here. So I have these routers. Let's select one from here, and we can see the physical view of that wireless also. So when you see the physical view, you can see here that it has this port. This port is for the WAN network. That means you will connect your internet cable to this port, and through these 4 ports you can connect your LAN devices, or you can connect the LAN devices through the wireless network also. Now these all devices comes with the open access and comes with the direct configured, these Ethernet network configured with the these public IP addresses, private IP addresses. So when you connect this device, it will automatically connect. Like suppose I will go to devices and suppose I select some smart device, and you see it is automatically connected to this router. Why? Because it has an open access. I will use this laptop. Now maybe it is not having the wireless port, so I will click on it, and yes, it is not having the wireless port, so I will add the wireless port into it. This is the wireless port, and start the laptop, and now it is also connected. So it automatically connects, and when you go to this device and check what IP address it gets, so you can see it gets the IP range, this 192.168.0.100. So it is getting the IP address from the DHCP. So all these APs which we use by default, these APs are configured with the DHCP server. So it will give the automatically IP address all the devices which connects to this AP. So it gives IP address automatically to those devices. Either they are connect to the wire, or either they connect through the wireless network. They will get the IP address from this AP, and by DHCP server it is already configured. And the gateway, you can see the gateway is saying 192.168.0.1. So this gateway is actually this AP's IP. So whatever your access router, your AP router is there, that AP router's IP you will see in the gateway. Or you can, if you don't understand, so you can see the device, you can turn the device, in the backside of the device you will see that what is the default IP it is having. So that IP is used to connect this device. So if we want to configure this AP, then we have to use that IP, which it is giving to these devices as a gateway. So you can check the gateway also, or you can see in the backside of this router it will give the instruction there that this is the IP address to access this router, and this is the username and the password. Now username and password will be also there in the backside of this router. Mostly those routers are having default username as admin and default password as a admin. Mostly it is admin, but if it is something else, then it will give you in the backside of this router. Then again, most of the routers comes with the open access for wireless. Like you see here, when I open the network, it directly connects. So without any authentication it connects, because ease of use. But nowadays in new devices, some of the devices comes with the pre-configured password for this wireless network. And if it is the case, you will see in the backside of that device or in the manual of that device that what is the default password. Default password is used to connect this device. So you can see that also in the backside of this AP. Now if we want to configure this device, then we have to connect this device through the wire. So I will use one PC here, and I will connect this PC to our AP. Now we have to connect it through the LAN port. So I have to click on this, and this is the port for the internet, and these are the port for the Ethernet network, LAN network. So I can connect any of these, so I will connect one. Now remember, the cable which you use to connect this router's LAN port to this PC's LAN port is the straight cable, because they are different devices. Now what? When you connect this through the wire also, it will get the IP address of that range from the DHCP, just like these two devices get. So when we check this on this device, I will go for DHCP, and it gets the same range IP. You can see it is giving the same range 192.168.0.101, 102. So it is giving this same range to this every devices which will connect through wireless or through wired. But the gateway is 192.168.0.1, and this is the gateway which is used to connect this router to configure. So what we'll do, so for configuring the router, we have to connect that IP through the browser. Either we can do it from here, or also we can do it from the wireless device. Like, I will go to this my PC, I will open the browser. Now on the browser, what I will do, I will enter the IP address which was given in the backside of the router, or it is given by the given to the machine as a gateway, that is 192.168.0.1. Now it is asking the username and password. Now as I said, username and passwords are also written in the backside of the router and the manual in the router, but mostly it is admin. By default it is admin as a username, admin as a password. And we can get this graphical interface of this our router, which we can do configure. Which we can configure here. Now this same interface I will get if I connect the router from this wireless device. So that means I can configure this device from this wireless laptop or from this PC which is connected through the wire. But what is recommended? Recommended is to configure your router through the wired network. Don't configure your device through this wireless device, because if you configure this from this wireless device and you did some configuration in the wireless network, so what happened? When you change, suppose you configure the password here, right now there is no password. When you configure the password, because you have connected without password, it will be disconnected and you will be disconnect from the network, and then you have to reconnect, and then you have to reconnect and reopen the page, and then you have to reconfigure it. So every time you do something, you save it and you disconnect it. That is why you should configure the device through this wired network. Now what are the configurations there? So first, when you access it, so first when you access this device, you have to configure the wireless, the internet. You have to configure the WAN network, internet setup. So first, when you go to the setup, you have here setup where you have basic setup and some other advanced setup, but because it is a virtual, so these things are not working here. Then you have wireless configurations. In wireless you have wireless basic setting, then you have configuration, the security settings, you have other settings also. Then you have security setting, you have access restriction, applications, administrations, and then here you will see the status of your device. Right now the status is saying that though internet is connected, because it is not connecting any internet, because what, we have not configured the internet device. So first you go to the setup, go to setup, and you will configure the internet setup. Now internet setup depends on your ISP, that what that ISP has given to you. So it will depend on the ISP that what the configuration it is doing. Now if the ISP says put your internet setup on automatic DHCP, that means it will give the IP address from the DHCP server automatically, and it will give the IP address automatically, and our device will get the IP automatically from it. Or we can configure static IP address. Now static IP address, that means what IP address we need to configure, it is also given by the ISP. So the ISP will give us whatever the IP we want to configure. So it will tell you that what IP address, subnet mask, default gateway and DNS you want to configure. So whatever they say, I will configure here. Then optionally they will configure the host name, domain name and also that all these other configurations. Otherwise they will use this PPOE setting. PPOE is the server, it is point to point over Ethernet configuration. For this ISP has to set up the server. Now ISP, if the ISP has set up the PPOE server, then that ISP will give you the username and password for that server, and also if it requires, then it will give you the service name also. So we just have to configure here username and password and the service name if it is given by the service provider. Then we don't have to do anything else. So we just have to do this here based on the service provider, what they are setting or what they are giving. So based on that we configure this WAN here. Now after configuring the WAN, you can see the LAN setup here. Now in the LAN setup you can see it is already configured this network here, 192.168.0.1 as a router IP with this subnet mask. Now if you like, then you can change this. As I said, you can change this. Then based on this, the DHCP server is also enabled. If you can see, the DHCP server is enabled and it is giving IP address automatically to this to devices which is connecting to this router. And what IP address it is giving, so it is starting the IP addresses from this 192.168.0.100. So the first device which connects, it will get this IP. The next device will connect, it will get 101, then 102, then 103. Maximum number of users can be 50. We can increase it. Because it is 50, it says it will give IP address from 192.168.0.100 to 149. And also we can configure the DNS server IP if we like. But this setting will come, DNS settings will come from this internet setup. When we connect the internet setup, so ISP will give the DNS server IP. If you see the static IP, it will give DNS option here. So DNS server's IP will be configured by the service provider, whether it is giving automatically or whatever it is giving. Now after that you have to save the settings from here. Now what we can configure is the wireless network. Now to configure the wireless network, this is the basic wireless settings we have. Basic wireless setting where we can configure the access mode, mixed mode, or we can configure B and G mixed. Remember the standard 802.11 A, B, G, N. So if you say mixed, then it will use all. If you want, then you can go for B and G mixed, then you can go for G, B, N separately, or you can disable it also. I will put it on mixed. This is what default. Then this is the SSID. Now SSID is the name which you see in your device. By default it is set as a default. Now you can change this name also. But remember, this SSID is also used to connect the device in open access where there is no password. So where there is no password, it will connect with this SSID. The users will connect with this SSID. That means, so in open access what happens, suppose this AP's SSID is A. So what happened, the open access, that means there is no authentication, there is no password. So your device will use that SSID to connect this AP. Now because when you enable your wireless network in your mobile, suppose in your mobile or in your laptop, so when you check what are the wireless networks are available, so you will see different SSIDs here. And you will see some SSIDs are showing lock symbol. Lock symbol, that means they are locked with the password. They use authentication. And some will not show you the authentication. That means they are not locked. That means you can connect those devices without password. Now this A, it will show here as a not password. Now remember, if you want to connect this AP, then you have to click this AP to select. So you have to select this AP. That means when you select this AP, your mobile device or your device will send the request to connect the AP, and the request will also go to all over, like it will go to the range, within the range of your device, and it will go to different APs also. This is the another AP, this is another AP, this is another AP. So your request will go to this AP also, this AP also, this AP also, but they will not accept your request, because in your request you have selected this name in the AP, name of the SSID, this AP's SSID. So your request will go to this AP which has the same SSID which you requested. Then only what your this AP checks that the request says okay to connect to this SSID, then it will allow you to access. Now these APs will not allow, because you have not requested for their SSID. So because of the SSID also, the open access happens. Now when you have a password configured, then what happened, you select the AP. That means your request first will go to the AP for the connection. It will go for all the other APs also, they will not accept, only this AP will accept your request, and then this AP will ask you for the password because it is configured with the authentication. And then you will see the window saying provide the password, and then when you type the password and press enter, your request goes to the AP, and the AP will say allow or deny after matching the password. And if in the enterprise environment where we have the Radius server configured, so when you click the AP, it will go to the access point, it will ask the connection. Now AP says okay, this is my SSID, so it will give you the response, and it will say that I am configured with the Radius server, and you have to give the authentication based on the Radius server. And you will see the window pop up in your device saying provide username and password. Now when you provide username and password, your request will go to this AP, and the AP will send that request to the Radius server for authentication. Now when the Radius server says okay, it is allowed, then this AP will allow you to access this network. So this is the three type of authentication we have. Open access, where you connect with the SSID, and close access, that is what connecting through the shared key, pre-shared key, that is the password, or through the authentication by the Radius server. So here you can change the default SSID. Let's say I will change it to Sai. Now after changing this, I have to save it. Now when I save this, you can see these devices are disconnected because they were connected previously based on that SSID name default, but now they are not connecting because the SSID is changed. Now we have to go to this device and check PC wireless configuration, and here we have to check, it says no association with the access point, so we have to scan here. And you can see this now Sai, and then we can connect, and you can see now it is connected based on that SSID. Here also you have to do the same thing. So here also I can go to the config, because it is virtual, so I can use this configuration setup here, wireless, and it is set as a default SSID. Now I will change the SSID to Sai, and it will connect, and you can see now it is also connected. So because it was connected through that SSID in the open access, it was disconnected when we changed the SSID. Now to configure the password, what we can do, we'll go to wireless and we'll go to wireless security. By default security is disabled, So we go to drop down and we can see all these like WEP, WPA personal, WPA enterprise, and also WPA2 and WPA enterprise. So if suppose I select WEP, so it will say that you will give the key phrase here, the password key here. We can use the 64-bit version or we can use the 128-bit version, but both are not secured. Either you use this or that, and only it will accept the hexadecimal key. Or we can go for personal. Now in personal you can see it uses these two encryption algorithm, and you will give the password here. Now it is what personal where you give the password, but if you go for enterprise, then you have to provide the radius server IP here, because the authentication will not done here on this AP, it will be done on the radius server. So when you authenticate, when the client send the authentication request, the request will go to radius server. So you have to configure first the radius server, and then you will give the IP address of the radius server here. This is the default port number, and you will configure the shared secret to communicate with the radius server securely. We don't have radius server, so I'll go with WPA personal, and here I will configure the password ABC at 123, and then I will save it. Okay, passphrase is also ASCII, so I will go for ABC 1 2 3 4 5 6, and I will say save it. Now when I save, now our wireless network is secure. And now when you see here, these devices again disconnects. So when we want to connect them, so we have to go to the device again, and then you see it is not connecting. Now we can see here SAI. Now when I want to connect, so it says that this is WPA personal, and you have to provide the password ABC 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then connect, and you can see now it is connected. So just like that you can configure the security for your router. Now one more thing, remember always the password to access this router is always default, that is admin. So whenever you do connect your router first time, remember to change the password of access router. Otherwise anyone can access your router and change your router configuration. So by default it is admin. So make sure that you reset the password, this default password, and you can reset it from this administration, and you can reset the password. Now if suppose you reset the password and you forgot yourself the password, and now you want to configure the router and you're not able to configure because you're not able to connect this wireless AP router because you forgot the administration password, then you can do what? You can reset your device to the default factory setting. And for that, in every device in the backside you can see the small hole here, it says reset. In the hole there is a button, you can't press it from the outside, you have to use a small pin to push it into that hole to press that key or press that button. So if you want to reset the device, then get the key, take the small pin and then put it into this hole and hold and press that button for at least 10 seconds. After the 10 seconds, what your router will restart and it will go back to the factory setting. It will go back to the factory setting, that means by default setting there where the open access is there, default username and password will be, the default username and password will be there, admin, and everything will go back to default. Then you can start the configuration again. So it is not like if you forgot the administration password, you cannot access it again. You can reset your wireless AP by that reset key. So this is how we can configure the router, access this router, and then we can configure these setups, and we can configure the password also, and we should change the password of administration, and if we forgot, then we can reset the router by using these steps as what I have said.